This is the story of a doorman whose mission to clean up a bar leads to a fight to clean up a town. This is Roadhouse. I'm Jay Harangue and I've wasted hours of my life watching terrible films.
You should subscribe.
This is Mr. Tillman and he's come to New York to have a look around this bar. Everyone's having fun, people are spending money, and this guy is doing an impression of a chicken. This is Dalton and he's the main character.
Hi.
He's the head doorman at this bar, and if there's any trouble, he deals with it. Tillman is pretty impressed with how Dalton runs things, so he wants to hire him to work at his club, just outside Kansas City, the Double Deuce. And not just any doorman will do.
I need the best.
So Dalton agrees and heads straight to Kansas City. When he gets to the Double Deuce, it's an absolute shithole.
Yep.
The place is run down, everyone's fighting, and the band even has a blind person playing guitar.
This is all very unfortunate.
The staff are a joke. This guy Steve is more interested in getting laid than throwing people out.
Guys will be guys.
And this woman is dealing during work hours.
It's totally inappropriate.
A huge fight breaks out, but Dalton does nothing to stop it. The next day, Dalton buys a crap car and rents a room in this barn before chairing a staff meeting.
Morgan, you're out of here. You don't have the right temperament for the trade.
You're a dead man.
He also fires the dealing waitress.
Good.
It's my way or the highway.
My way or the highway.
Dalton has 3 rules.
1, never underestimate your opponent. 2, take it outside. And 3, be nice.
Oh, okay then. Let's see how this goes. Well, it's not a great start. The bar's been open for 20 minutes and Steve is letting underage girls in so he can shag them.
He's a creep.
Pat, the bar manager, is stealing from the till, and someone's pulled a knife. Yeah! This girl Denise seems pretty taken with Dalton, but who wouldn't be? Dalton catches Steve shagging in the stockroom.
Your history.
But I'm on my break.
Okay.
Pat the barman is fired for stealing too. After work that night, Dalton is reading a book out the window with his shirt off when he's disturbed by a party on the other side of the river. The guy whose party this is Brad Wesley, the richest man in town. Even though he's 60 years old, Denise, who's 19, is his girlfriend.
Is that gonna be a problem?
Not at all.
The next morning, Carrie the waitress comes over. She's like, you shouldn't have sacked Pat. He asks why not, and she's like, you just shouldn't have. Dalton needs a new windshield for his crap car, so he goes to Red's Auto Parts in town. When he gets home, Dalton's doing Tai Chi or whatever this is by the river. Brad Wesley pulls up on his quad bike, sees this, and thinks Dalton is an absolute twat. The next day at work, Pat is in Tillman's office with a few of Brad's henchmen, demanding his job back. It turns out that Pat's Brad's nephew, and as Brad runs this town, Pat is untouchable. Dalton's like, no, sorry, you're still fired, and Pat gets angry.
What's the matter, you chicken dick?
There's a big fight, which obviously Dalton wins.
Of course.
But he's been stabbed, so needs to go to the hospital, where he meets Dr. Clay. After she stitches him up, he tells her to stop by the Double Deuce sometime, and she's like, yeah, okay. The next day, Brad is pretty pissed off that his men were unable to get his nephew Pat his job back, so he singles out one of them and beats him up. Dalton comes to pick up the windshield he ordered from Red, but Brad, who runs a protection racket, has already been in and ransacked his shop, because Red didn't pay him on time.
All the businesses in town belong to it.
Everybody pay?
Does a hobby horse have a wooden dick?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, Dr. Clay is Red's niece. That night at the Double Deuce, Denise is throwing herself at Dalton, but Brad's bodyguard Jimmy comes over and stops her. When they leave, these 4 come in, and one of them has a blade on his shoe, like the woman from James Bond. Dalton clocks this immediately and there's a big fight outside. What an unfortunate time for Dr. Clay to rock up at the Double Deuce. She doesn't seem too bothered though, so they go to this diner where we find out more about how amazing Dalton is. He has a philosophy degree from NYU and he actually hates violence.
Really?
He also pays this drunk guy's tab. What a hero. She drives him back to his car, but it's been trashed, so they kiss. The next day, while Dalton is lying on the hood of his car in the woods, 2 of Brad's men come and tell him Brad wants to see him. Brad's house is pretty nice. Denise is there doing whatever this is, and oh look, she's got a black eye. Clearly, Brad wasn't too happy when he heard she was flirting with Dalton last night. Brad tries to recruit Dalton, but he's not interested in that, so he leaves. At an unspecified time later, the Double Deuce is completely changed. They've had a refurb and the bad element has gone.
Good.
There's only one problem. They're running out of alcohol. Brad Wesley has made sure none of the suppliers will deliver there. But don't worry, Dalton will take care of it. After work, Dr. Clay is waiting outside for Dalton. She drives him back to the farm where he lives, and then they bang. After they finish, they go out on the roof so Dalton can smoke naked. But Brad has seen them from his porch. We don't actually see Brad knocking one out in his rocking chair, but it's certainly implied. The next day at work, the blind guitarist warns Dalton about Dr. Clay.
You know who had a thing for Elizabeth Clay?
I wonder.
Brad Wesley.
What?
Anyway, the truck from the new supplier has arrived, and so has Dalton's friend Wade Garrett. But oh no, Brad Wesley's men have arrived to tell the truck driver not to give them any of this alcohol. They start smashing it. Then there's this fight.
Oh, dear.
While they're beating Dalton up, Wade comes out, and he's almost as hard as Dalton.
Wow.
So between the two of them, they deal with Brad's men. That night, they go out to a bar with Dr. Clay. Dalton and Wade are telling boring stories about bar fights, but Dr. Clay doesn't seem too bothered. The next day at work, one of the bouncers comes in to tell Dalton that Red's Auto Parts is on fire. Everyone rushes over there to get as close as they can when it explodes. But when they get back to the Double Deuce, Brad is there, and he's obviously responsible for the fire.
Yes.
Brad tells Denise to dance on the stage. So the next 5 minutes of the film is just that happening. Dalton eventually puts a stop to it, and this annoys Brad, so he calls for Jimmy, who does his own dance with a pool cue.
Very impressive indeed.
Brad's men start trashing the place and a big fight breaks out, but just as Dalton's about to kick Jimmy's head in, Brad fires his gun and tells his men to leave. Red has had enough of all this Brad Wesley business, so he's decided to leave town. But Stroudenmeyer, the town's car dealer, tells him that he's going to speak to his friend at the FBI to get all this dealt with. So the next day, Brad has his men drive a monster truck through his showroom. Everything is ruined and Brad tells Stroudenmeyer to remember that this is his town. Back at home, Dalton is practicing fighting, and Wade tells him he should pack his things and get out of town. But Dalton won't leave. He's in too deep. Wade's like, okay, you can stay, but I'm leaving. Later that night, when Dalton is staring out the window with his shirt off, Dr. Clay comes in. She tells him to leave town too. While they're arguing, Dalton's landlord Emmett's house explodes. Dalton runs into the burning building to save Emmett, while Brad watches from across the river. Jimmy has arrived on a bike, laughing, so Dalton flies through the air and knocks him off it.
Prepare to die. You're such an asshole.
Then there's this fight that goes on and on and on.
On and 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 on
Until...
Kill you the old-fashioned way.
So Jimmy's dead. This is just too much for Dr. Clay, and she's angry that Dalton's killed Jimmy. And so is Brad, because Dalton's floated his dead body across the river to his house. He gets his revenge the next day. When Dalton gets to work, Wade is lying dead on the bar.
What a revolting development.
Brad is expecting Dalton, so he has all his men with guns defending his house. Dalton sends in an old-school driverless car through the first line of defense, which allows him to get into the house and start killing people. This has to be my favourite death.
Really?
That's absurd.
Then it comes down to Dalton versus Brad Wesley. Sorry, I know he's supposed to be the main bad guy, but he's an old man, and we've already seen Dalton easily deal with everyone else, so this is a bit of a joke. Anyway, Dalton finally beats him and is just about to rip his throat out, but then he thinks, nah, I'm better than that.
All right.
That's fine, but he's already killed a few people today, in addition to the one he killed last night. So why the hesitation? Then Dr. Clay comes in and accidentally distracts Dalton, allowing Brad to grab a gun.
It's over!
Oh, it was Red. Brad's not dead yet.
This is our town.
Now he is, so everyone's happy. And while the blind man sings at the new and improved Double Deuce, Dalton and Dr. Clay swim naked in the river. And that's the end of the film. So until next time. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this, please like and subscribe and check out this other video. Thank you.